Hello and welcome to this active response demo. My name is Chris Ellis. I'm an Intel security system engineer, and I want to say thanks very much to Scott Tashler and Chris Miller, who provided the original video content that I've edited into this demo use case scenario. First active response use case is finding a PDF. And you can see just using the, I don't even have to type here, I'm actually just using the coaching. As I enter parameters, options pop up on the screen that allow me to format a query. And in this case, I'm showing files where the file name is PDF. So perhaps I've been tipped off to a targeted phishing attack PDF that's malicious. Now you can see I'm just seeing the actual PDF files themselves in this case, and so I'm going to change the query, just tweak it by adding full name into it. Now I'm going to get the full path. Again, it takes a few seconds. In a very large deployment, this could take still under 20-30 seconds, very fast. And you can see the paths here. And then I can click on one of those. Perhaps I recognize that top one as being a malicious PDF. And through the EPO execute reaction, I can have active response delete the file and notify the users. That would remove it completely off the endpoint. So here's another interesting set of use cases, starting with finding NetFlow data. This is really interesting because perhaps somebody on the SIM or our host IPS has identified that there's some unusual activity occurring on an endpoint. So I go into hunting mode here, and the first thing I'm going to see is what kind of NetFlow traffic I'm seeing. Perhaps look for outliers, and I was notified that it was around 8 o'clock. Notice how it went green when I had a valid query. It stays kind of that pinkish red otherwise. So here I go. I'm going to show the source IP for any traffic generated on endpoints after 8 o'clock. Now it's in a small lab, but it's still, you could imagine that most systems would have 5, 10, 20 connections. This system has 405, which definitely shows that it's doing an unusually high amount of NetFlow traffic. So I'm going to modify the query now, again just using the coaching technique, or I can just drop down and select parameters for my query, for my search. You can see I'm looking for NetFlow where the time is after 8 o'clock, and I want to see the host IP address equaling just 26.228. So I'm focusing down now on that singular IP address. And still very quickly I get back a lot of data. Now there's a lot here, and you can see that on the time frames on the left. They're happening within a very short period of time. And I also see that this 26.245 address appears frequently, so I'm going to filter on that. So now I'm looking at just the source and the destination of traffic related to what I think is a suspicious activity happening on this endpoint. You can see a lot of in and out traffic, open close, a lot of acts in act traffic. Clearly an unusually high amount of traffic. I want to investigate further. So now I'm going to see what kind of files were potentially dropped. If this was some kind of a botnet connection, it might have dropped files on that endpoint. So now I'm going to set up a query and in real time find out the kind of files that were dropped. So look at, you can see the pink on the top goes green when I have a valid query. And I'm going to see what files were landed on this endpoint that were created after 6 o'clock. So I'm going to go back a bit in time because perhaps this botnet landed on my system before all that high volume traffic started occurring. And indeed, I can see a bunch of files that were created after 6 o'clock on that particular date. So we can go back in time, which is a pretty interesting feature in itself. All right, so I'm going to continue my hunt here, and I'm going to drill down and look for files where the full name is, and I'm going to have all the details laid out in my next search. I'm showing the directory, the SHA-1, the MD5, when the files were created or deleted, the status of the files, and the last write, and where the host information IP address equals our target address, that 26.228. And you can see you can have pretty long queries here. And I'm also going to say, and the file's name contains, and I could see that evil.class there, so I'm going to drill down on that. It could have been ABCJQ, whatever the file might be that's causing the problems, but you can see now there's quite a few files that ended up on this endpoint with the word evil in it. Perhaps I want to grab a copy. This is another great feature of our active response, is to just click on a file on the endpoint and take an evidence copy. That's part of the scenario here that I set up a share for this file to be popped onto that EPO could access. But there I go. I could grab a copy, and it even warns you how this is going to affect how many endpoints. It's a really good little feature there. Perhaps I want to run this through our sandbox, our active threat defense. That would be a great use case there. All right, so moving along now. Now I want to take a hash of the file. So I've narrowed it down. I see this evil PDF. Got my eyes. That caught my eye. Grab the MD5 by screen scraping it there. And now I'm going to do a query that shows host information where the host name and the files, or the file's MD5 hash equals, and I paste in that hash. And this is something that would alert any security engineer, as when you see one MD5 hash equaling different file names. So that's super suspicious. So our stock benefits PDF, obviously how this targeted phishing attack came in, is also known as evil PDF. So thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed this active response demo.